following channel you'll be seeing the footage from is this channel. I can't record 3DS footage basically for completely obvious reasons.
Key quests?
So according to a lot of info I can find online, the first game apparently sold pretty well here in the United States, doubling its Japanese numbers by 40 million copies sold. Before looking into the sales of the game, I thought it would have the same success as Fossil Fighters, but it's good to see people are actually buying the game, and along with another bunch of stupid spin-off games no one cares about, there's a sequel in Japan. So Level 5 of America had two options. 1, release Yokai Watch 2 in the West, or 2, release one of the stupid spin-off games no one cares about. And I think you know which option they chose. But there's a little thing I need to mention before getting into the game. See, the game was released in two versions, Bony Spirits and Fleshy Souls. Throughout both versions, there's some new yokai, and that's pretty much it. That sounds oddly familiar, but it wouldn't be copying it, would it? I know Level 5's starting some stupid rivalry against Pokemon, but you can't rival someone by copying them. That's just stupid. And if you were wondering, yes, I do like the Yokai Watch series, but there's no way in a million years that it'll ever rival Pokemon. Like, ever. I don't really like starting these reviews with a negative outlook on the game, but hopefully Yokai Watch 2 will give me a good experience like the first game did. So we begin the game in the don't fret, it's still fiction town of Springdale. These two grandma looking characters are here to steal the Yokai Watch, and then suddenly after they look at it, it disappears for, I don't know, some reason. Also, might I add that these two characters have some of the most unbearable voices I've ever heard in a video game? But with the removal of the watch, that means Nate loses all of his memories, making the first events of the first game completely pointless! Yay! Like, come on! The whole amnesia thing is so overdone. I can think of a million better plots. What about a plot where Jibanyan walks to these yokai and then he gives them all of the yokai medals for choco bars? See, I came up with a better idea for a better plot in less than 2 minutes. I'm a creative genius. You know what this means? The entire events of the first game replay. So if you played the first game and are now playing the sequel, you're basically doing the exact same crap for 20 minutes. Oh yeah, before moving on to Chapter 2, I need to mention that Jibanyan is now a recurring character who will often speak in these cutscenes. So anyways, Whisper gives us a select coin and then we can choose free yokai to accompany us on a journey. Wait a minute. Free yokai to select for a journey? Well, if you thought this was going to be like Pokemon, you couldn't be further away from the truth. In Pokemon, your stars had this sort of sentimental value to them. They weren't the best members on your team, but you still kept them throughout the entire game. And 2, in Pokemon, it's a grand thing. But in Yokai Watch, it's just Whisper gives you a coin. Oh yeah, and we can introduce what is quite possibly the worst mechanic of the game. Key quest. See, the game will politely request of you to go do some side quests, and let me tell you, most of these quests range from stupid to stupid. And firstly, aren't these side quests? You know, stuff you can do on the side and do another time or not at all? How is it a side quest if I have to do it? Honestly, I think they're worse than the watch store. Oh wait, they kept those in, so that's great.
So it seems like with this game it keeps on failing at every turn. Maybe the main story of the game will actually be good.
It really isn't. Oh boy, nothing spells fun like Nate's good friend Eddie losing his watch and you just walk around. Oh, but don't worry, at the end of the chapter you befriend a yokai named Swelton. It's a very fat and sweaty man. What an incredibly creative yokai! I do have to give the game some credit. The first boss of the game, Gutsy Bones, is actually a really solid fight. So during the boss fight, Gutsy Bones plays with this little mini Crankakai. It's a fairly entertaining boss fight. It only took me 2 minutes because I had 2 S ranks on my team already, but you get my point. So after all that crap, we see this yokai that looks like he came straight out of DeviantArt. Oh wait, he's just a normal yokai. We have to go to Harrisville because the DeviantArt creature told us to, and thankfully, Nate's grandma lives there. So let's just take the train and something is off. There should have been like a short cutscene or something. Oh no, we have to do this entire thing. How many more stages are to the Go Pass? Oh my goodness. Who thought this was a good idea? This half is just long and repetitive, and I played other better games while playing this. Oh yeah, and speaking of boring things, we have to walk grandma for the entire town. How fun! Now, while we're here, 2 things happen. One, we see Palisol, who is a classic yokai, which is exactly what it sounds like. Also, you're introduced to 2 sides of yokai, the fleshies and the bonies. These 2 hate each other for some reason. So after some incredibly fun key quest, we encounter Hovernyon, and apparently he has a stone that allows us to travel through time. Now we can do all the cliches. Hovernyon sends us back all the way to the past because apparently yokai and spiritmen's basically gone out of control. So these are wicked yokai. So remember the yokai McCracken had in the first game? Yeah, these are basically just more fleshed out versions of those. Thankfully, Hovernyon's friend Nathaniel comes to save us, and then we learn that he's Nate's grandfather, and he's stubborn, childish, and kind of stupid. The only thing I can really give him credit for is that he was the original creator of the Yokai Watch. So in the current timeline we're at, the Yokai Watch hasn't been invented yet. So you know what that means? More key quests! Do you see how tiresome the key quests have gotten? So before I move on, if it feels like if I'm just skimming over most of the game, it's because I am. See, the game has this weird problem where most of it is just unnecessary crap that doesn't advance the story, just here to pad out the game's playtime. And that is especially shown in this next part of the game. Oh my goodness, this has to be the worst part of the game. So we just got the new Yokai Watch, the Model Zero. It's got some new mechanics, but I'll get to that soon. Hovernyon requests of us to recruit some of Nathaniel's old yokai friends. Apparently over the years the yokai have been turned to stone, so you know what that means. Even though we just did some key quests a few minutes ago, the worst one has to be Mermaid, and oh my goodness, this one is awful. Firstly, we have to take the dreaded train system, which is already bad enough, but trust me, it gets worse. So we finally make it there, and oh no, there's that door. I guess I gotta get my watch upgraded, so we have to spend 15 minutes getting our watch upgraded. How fun. The dungeon we go through isn't worth talking about, but at the end of all of it, there's a boss at the end. It's not a terrible boss, which is good by this game's standards, because it has bosses that are either mediocre or far worse than the first game. This half of the game is a perfect example of everything I hate about it. It tells you, go here, go here, go here, go here, and go here. It involves key quests. And you know, that never changes. We get more incredibly boring boss fights, key quests, and it's the same thing over and over again. Now, this would be a good point to talk about some of the new stuff they added into the game. If there was some new stuff to talk about. Don't get me wrong, there is some new stuff to talk about, but whenever I mention it, I'll feel like I'll say, yeah, that was pretty pointless. And that's the main issue. All of the new mechanics here are just pointless. They don't fix any other issues with the original. Nothing. It's nothing. They're pointless. So I think it's time for us to move on to the game's finale. It looks like that the bony spirits and fleshy souls are preparing for a big battle. Anyways, depending on which version of the game, Total Dude or Arachnus tells you why they've been fighting for a while. So basically they needed to get a gift for their master. They decide on donuts. and they had a big war because they couldn't decide what frosting to get into. But they join forces when they learn about the wicked yokai and their plans to destroy the world. Apparently, these wicked yokai are so strong that we need to go out and get training. Thankfully, there's a yokai named Master Nyata, and he makes us do key quests. The quests here don't even revolve around fighting, it's just dumb quest stuff. But hey, at least they're the last key quests of the game. Apparently, Dame Demona's been working on this thing called the Dark Cloud that's going to spirit all humans. So we travel into the future to see what wicked yokai will look like there. And yep, we're screwed. We need to get back to the past to stop Dame Demona. After we clear out some of the wicked yokai, we meet up with Dame Demona. And let me tell you, this boss fight kinda sucks. She's got some typical elemental attacks, blah 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 blah, I do not care. But the one big issue with this fight is that she will steal your level and then turn it into a wicked yokai. This comes with many issues. The big issue here is that your yokai's level gets inverted back to level 1, meaning you aren't as strong to fight off the boss. So during the first time we're fighting the boss, Dame Demona uses what's probably the best ultimate of the game, action replay. Always just a scripted sequence. Ken and Gin are keeping Dame Demona alive, and there's actually a heartfelt moment that kinda works where Nathaniel summons all of his yokai friends. So Dame Demona made the cloud now and is going to take all the happiness away from people. Okay, with the final boss I was going to go on this big rant, but then when I was scripting I realized there's nothing to talk about with this boss fight, so I'm just skipping it. The only thing I'll say is that it's a worse version of the final boss from the first game. Look, Nate, honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't be sad that I would be going away. My reaction instead would be this.
My goodness, this place is horrible. I want out of here. I guess there's just one final thing. The post-game.
So during the post-game, it's basically just some extra boss fights and befriending yokai and some quests, and that's pretty much it. So finally, we are done with Yokai Watch 2. I can be done with this game. I can go finally play Yokai Watch 3, and we have nothing else to talk about. A year after Yokai Watch 2 came out, at least in America, they released Psychic Spectres, an expanded version of the game. And I need to get something out of the way before we move on to the content of this game. This game was not worth $40. So, what do you get with your wasted, well spent $40 on an expanded version of Yokai Watch 2? Well, you can transfer your data from Yokai Watch to... Don't get me wrong, that is good, but that comes with the main issue of Psychic Spectres. It feels less like you paid $40 for a new game, and more like $15 DLC. So the first main selling point of the game is Gara Gara Land. Why was this the main selling point? I don't know, because spoiler alert, it's not very good. Well, actually, the only good part about this world is the train that gets there, and it's actually not terrible. There's even a boss fight at the end of the train. The conductor, this is a really good boss fight. See, those things up there will keep his stats going up. So you have to stop them. Oh man, it's such a good boss fight. I just kind of wish that Gara Gara Land was an actual world worth talking about. So the second main selling point is that you can now befriend wicked yokai, which is cool. I'm really struggling to find stuff to talk about in this version. So another one of the main selling points of this game is more backstory. They actually dedicated an entire backstory to Jibanyan, and I thought it was really well handled. Probably the only well handled thing about this game. Oh yeah, Whisper has a backstory. I have one question. who was curious about Whisper's backstory and who cared about it. And I mean that from a developer and consumer standpoint. Look, I just cannot stand this one. This story is just beyond boring. The only thing I'll say about Dame Demona's backstory is that this image is gonna haunt my nightmares for 2 weeks. The last thing when it comes to Psychic Spectre's content I'm gonna be talking about today is Blasters, or as it's called in this game, Psychic Blasters. This is a boss rush mode. The boss fights here are kinda hard, but it's actually a really fun mode. So that was all of Yokai Watch 2's content, and I hate this game. In my opinion, instead of putting all this pointless side content, how about instead focus on making the main content good? I thought going in this would be the Crash 2 of the series, but instead it's just the Rafa Cortex of the series. Anyways, my name is Ghostim, and I'm finally done with Yokai Watch 2, and next time we'll be looking at Yokai Watch 3, which will hopefully be longer than this video.